forgot to turn on my microphone, so I'll start over. Good evening, guys. How are you? Today we're going to continue our series with having fun with Python on Codewars, and yeah, hope you're ready to have some fun. Today we're going to learn about lambda functions. So before we get into doing some actual exercises, I'm going to show you how a lambda function works. Let's open up an editor here and bring it over. Alright, and then we do a new file just to show you guys how this stuff works. So here I need to do a new file. I'm gonna call it lambda.py. Hopefully you can hear me well. If not, I'll bring the microphone over a little bit. Okay. Levels in OBS are showing me interesting results, so let me see if I increase the gain a little bit. Hello. Okay, is it better now? Okay, I'll try to keep my voice a bit higher, although I don't really want to do that. I don't really like to do that. So let's move the microphone a bit over now. If it's anyone live and watching, please let me know if you can hear me well. And as I said, I'm gonna show you how a lambda function works. So basically what a lambda function is, it's an anonymous function. Basically you can set a variable to be the result of the function without having the function defined. You define the function as the value of the variable. So let me show you an example. We have two numbers, right? num1, num2, and then we want to have a sum of those numbers. Of course, in Python, sum could equal num1 plus num2, very simple. But if you want to do a function basically that can take in any numbers that you want, you can say like that. So we're defining let's say the sum, because sum is a built-in function in Python. So the sum equals lambda, and then you take in the arguments num1, num2, and then you put in the logic. So num1 plus num2. And now if I print the sum, and if I spell correctly the sum, it should give us the result. Actually, I think I can just say the sum. And here you need to do something with that. You can either print or return and then have the sum. Okay. It doesn't like something, and I'm curious what it is. Doesn't say what it doesn't like. But basically this is what a lambda does. So another example. Let's say we want a reverse string So we have these two lambda functions here. And 5 minutes into the stream and I realize you guys can't see anything. How about now? So we'll take it over. We'll start over actually. So lambda function. Let's try to explain again. Here, it's how a lambda function is constructed. So let's say here you define the lambda function that adds 10 to a given argument. Could be whatever. You have to feed this into the function itself when you call it. So in my example, so let me close this one. If we go back into my example, here, let's say reversed is taking in a string and it's returning the reverse of the string. Or let's take the sum example. So sum example takes 2 arguments. Now remember, sum, it's a variable, it's not a function itself. The variable will have a value of the result of the sum, or will have the value as value the result of the lambda evaluation. So let's say here you want to put in 2 and 5, that should print 7. Here, let's say we have the string nobody likes wise something, and we should get 7 and the mirrored string that we wrote. So if we put this in reverse, nobody likes a wise a something. Okay, so basically this is a lambda function. Let's try another example. Let's say we want to extract even numbers from a list and print them to the screen. So let's say, and we want to extract that from whatever is provided as an input argument, but the input argument will always have to be a list. So we receive a list of numbers and we want to extract only the odd numbers in that list, and we will return also a list. So let's say only we need only those even. Lambda, we need the argument, which is a list, and we want to return another list and this is how we check if the particular element is even or odd. But we only want evens, so we said if the remainder of L divided by 2 is 0, then this number is even. If you want to get the odds, so let's do the odds as well. And here we say if it's not equal to 0. Yep. And now to access and have the result, we have to print only even, and here we need to give it the argument. So I don't want to generate a list of numbers, so what I'll do, I'll use the range function. So I want to generate a list of numbers from 1 to 320, and I will get only the even numbers from that list. And let's do the same for odds. And here, let's go to 555, like that. And we want to print the result. So here, Now remember, when you use range function, the upper limits or the second argument is not going to be taken into account, so it goes up to the previous number than the one specified as the second argument. So this is the upper limit. If we set in here 321, then 320 will be taken into account, but 321 will not. Right, same as here. Let's put 56, and here you should see the last number to be 320, because 320 it's an even number, and then you should see 555 because it's an odd number. So let's run it again like this. And as you can see here, there are only even numbers, and here there are only odd numbers. And this is what a lambda function does. So basically every simple code, right, everything that's fairly simple to do can be done via a lambda function. Everything that's just returning like a reverse string, or it's returning a selection of odd or even, simple addition, multiplication, everything like that that's simple, has a few instructions, or has one instructions and could even have some logic inside it, then we can transform it into a lambda function. And the lambda function is written like this. If I want to say, to have this function wrote as a normal function, so let's say I'll write a normal function. I'll say define reverse string of s, and say, I could say new string equals s, like that, and then say return new string, or print, whatever I want to do. See, all these 3 lines of code have been written here. Let's do another example. Let's say division by 0, right? We know that the division by 0 is not permitted in any language. So let's say we'll define a function that says division. It takes in 2 arguments, number 1 and number 2. And we will do some logic in here. So let's say if n2 is different than 0, we don't really care if it's lower than 0 or higher than 0. As long as it's not 0, then we can return n1 divided by n2. Now let's take this whole function here and make it a lambda function. And how we do that? It's very simple. Let's say division equals lambda, n1, n2, and here we say n1 divided by n2 if n2 is different than 0. Now, this one, we're going to comment it out, and we'll try the first one, and we want to print division of 6 and 2. And let's comment this one out so we don't have a large output, and let's do that. Division of 6 and 2 is equal to 3. Whenever Python does a division, we'll transform the result into a float. If we want to have only the integer, we can do an integer division like that, so double slashes. And if we print that, also let's, okay, so these ones I don't need, and this one we can comment out, just so we don't have a bunch of output that we don't really care about. And there, as you can see, we have 3 as a result. Now here we might also want to treat if it's not the case. If n2 is actually 0, we can then return a string that says division by 0 is not allowed. Right, and then let's duplicate this function and put a 0 in there, run the file, and then we get this. So now we know this function is working. Let's comment that out. Let's comment this one out as well. And actually, when this bit of code goes here, so right now it's attached to that example, and then we're gonna go and test the lambda version of our function. So uncomment this, put these lines below, and here also we need to have the second case, right? So division by 0 is not allowed, and run the code, and we have the same result. Although here you see the difference, because here we haven't changed to a integer division, but we can do that fairly simple, and then we have this. So guys, this is the lambda function. It's fairly simple, but remember, this is only to be used with simple code. If you have a bunch of logic on your code, on your function, let's say you have a larger function that does multiple things, let me see if I can get you an example like this one here. Even though this one can also be a lambda function, because there are not multiple operations, or there are not hard operations here, this can also be done in a lambda function. But I'm looking at a complicated function, so this one here, right, with the repetitive action. This one should never be translated into a lambda function, because it's getting too complicated, and it's going to be heavy on the system. Same for this one. This should never be translated into a lambda function. So I hope you guys understood the point of the lambda function. Basically, it makes the code cleaner, and for some people it's more understandable. And yeah, that's the lambda function for you. Now, why have I talked about lambda function for about 15 minutes? Is because some of the exercises here, at least in the 8Q katas, can be resolved using lambda functions. And if we get to a right example, I'm going to demonstrate that for you. So now let's get into solving some katas. We'll go with the first one, which is super duper easy. It says, let's see, what do I need to do? Oh, sorry, went to the next kata. No, I want to train. So instructions are: make a function that returns the value multiplied by 50 and increased by 6. If the value entered is a string, it should return error. Right, so this is very easy. Basically, what we can do is say yeah, return, like that, return a times 50 plus 6 if a, if is instance a int, else they want us to return error. Now there are multiple ways. I'm sorry for the noise, guys. There are multiple ways to solve this issue. There are more elegant ways, and I'm going to show you that, but this is the most straightforward way, simplest way. Or let's call this the medium way. I'm going to show you the long way. So the problem A, and we will say if is instance a int result equals a times 50 plus 6, sorry, 6, else result equals error, return result. Now this is the long way, and this is this is the beginner's way, right? You have the function, you test for an int, and then you set the variable, you set the results to have either one value or the other, it depends on what you get from this particular test, and then you return the result. Another way is try except try return a times 50 plus 6 except value error or exception as e, and then you can print error and the actual error like that, and that's it. And this is more acceptable amongst advanced programmers because you can't always trust the user to input the proper value, and you need to make sure you treat that. So if the user doesn't input the proper value, you will return an exception, and with that exception you'll return an error. So let's test out all these variants. So we'll copy those and we'll test them out here locally. New file, tests.py. Okay, let's comment those out, and here we need to call we'll actually print because we're returning, so we need to see the value. So problem where a is a, right? So we're expecting an error to occur. Perfect. Now let's do when a is a 5. Still error because 5 is within quotes, single quotes, and single quotes means string. Now let's remove the quotes, and we have 256, which makes sense. It's true. I made the math. All right, let's see the next one. Next one is the beginner way, and this is the most verbose way of doing it. I mean, this code is fairly simple to read by anyone, even though you haven't coded in Python too much. From my perspective, this is really easy. And let's try it out. 256 a error. Cool. Next one. This should show us a different output for the error, so let's try it out. Now, as you can see here, we have two outputs. One says error can only concatenate string, not int to string. Yeah, so basically it says it can do a times 50, even though if it's string, because strings can be multiplied, right? So you can have print b times 10, right? And here we have 10 b's, but then you cannot concatenate 6, which is written as an integer. If you do like that, this can be added to the string because this is itself a string. But in this situation, we're looking for a mathematical operation, and this cannot happen due to the circumstances, right? And so the point is that you get this one, and then you return none. The reason you return none is because the function entered the try and failed, and then it took the exception path. So basically it doesn't return anything, just the error. Actually, we can make it return that, so it's not none, right? Because we were printing and then we print again. Yeah, so here is a fun way of testing the code and making sure that the user input is what it's supposed to be. Cool. Now we can go back and test it on the platform itself. So we're gonna go with either of these solutions, but the rest of them should be commented out. Advanced way, beginner way, and then we have the efficient, or we don't comment that. How about that? Let's test should go through. Let's attempts should go through, except one that gave us an error. What could it be? Let's attempt again. And now what I want to do is actually print A, so I want to see what's going on there. So let's attempt, and let's see the one that's failing. So the one that's failing says error should equal 3. Error should equal 66 because the input is 3. Okay, let's try this the advanced way. Oh, this is curiouser and curiouser. Right. Here we can't have the same. Yes, so let's see. So this one is passing, which is good. We had not returned the proper thing, but I'm wondering why this is not passing. What's not expected here? Give me one, guys. Right, so this one is also failing if we give it 3. Let's test it out. Let's go here. All right. $156. Wait, something's not right. Because here so let's test with this one, because this is giving the same error. So attempt here, when it says log, it's actually printing A, right? And here I have 3. He's expecting 66, which is okay. No, it's actually not okay. Why is this expecting 66 when 3 is added? Because we have to multiply it by 50, which is 150, plus 6 is 156. It makes no sense. Looks like this, only this way is passing all the tests. No, I didn't want to submit. But I'm guessing if it went through, the solution was correct. Right, so now that, and now we can attempt. All right, this seems to be working nicely. Let's see the other solutions. Yeah, so some of them went to type with type error. Really? Okay, so here this guy is doing the reverse test. So basically he's returning the error first if the parameter given is a string, and then if not, it's going to return the result. This guy is doing the same thing. He's just comparing if a equals to string of a, which is valid. This one is looking if x is int or float, and this is the lambda way of doing it. This is using the type function. Basically, here's what the type function does. Let me comment this out. String Python type of string, and gives us this class string. And if you can compare print, Actually, I'll do it right here. Equals says false. And now it says true, because str and str are not the same thing. This is how you test if it's an str. Let's say we want to test if it's an int, and it's not an int, it's an str. Cool. So multiple solutions. And you can see there are many answers here, all valid answers, otherwise we wouldn't see them here. Cool, so this is done. Let's move to the next one. Difference of volumes of cuboids. Well, this should be fun. In this simple exercise, you will create a program that will take two lists of integers, a and b. Each list will consist of three positive integers above 0, representing the dimensions of the cuboids a and b. You must find the difference of the cuboid's volume regardless of which is bigger. For example, if the parentheses are 2, 2, 3 and 5, 4, 1, the volume of A is 12 and the volume of B is 20. We'll get how they got the solution. Therefore, the function should return 8. Your function will be tested with pre-made example as well as random ones. Fine. Let's go resolve this one. So, how do you test, how do you get the volume of the cuboid? Basically, if a cuboid is xyz, you need to multiply each of them. Okay? And here are multiple ways of solving this. So let's do the long way now. So we know we have two cuboids, and let's say volume A equals, actually what we can do here is define another function that says get volume of x, and says here prod equals 1 for n in x, prod times equal n, and return prod. This is like the very long way. Now here we can say return. Actually, we can make these functions fairly simple. We'll say return, and this one should go below because it needs to read this function to be able to execute it. So return the absolute value of get volume of A minus get volume for B. Let's test it out. Now, why I'm doing the absolute value is because if the first cuboid has a lower value, it's smaller than the second one, the result will be a negative. But they want us to give a positive number, regardless of which one is bigger, right? So we're getting the absolute value. So the absolute value of a negative value is the positive of that value. The absolute value of a positive number is that number. It's fairly simple. Yep, so this is the long way. Let's do the attempt one to see if it's passing. It's all good, it's passing fine. Again, this is the long way. Yeah, we needed to create a helper function to help us get this sorted. Also, we could make this code in here, right, and write it 2 times, but you'll learn that in any programming languages you should not repeat yourself. It's called the dry method. Do not repeat yourself. And for that we create functions that are doing one single task and do it well. And here, this was the perfect example of why should we use functions, right? Because this one, it's the same thing, it's just for different values. Cool. Now we'll comment that out. We'll do an import. Actually, home. So from math, we'll import prod, and this will do basically what this function does, but then we don't need to write the extra code. So here we just need to exchange get volume with prod and prod, and if we test, was it not prod? Let me check it out. Just 1 second. With Python, import math, dear math. It is prod. Why can't it import prod? Right, 3.6 does not have prod, apparently. I'm not really sure, but I'm assuming it doesn't have prod. So, yeah, we'll go with our solution. How can you not have? And the weird thing is, it only lets me choose 3.6. I'm not allowed to choose 3.8. All right. Yeah, so basically we'll go with this solution here. We'll do this and submit. Okay, so you can import NumPy prod in 3.6. Good to know. I'm not using NumPy right now, but hey. Another way to do it, as you can see here, is just do the manual way. So basically, this guy here, it's adding each element, it's multiplying each element in its own separate block. It's doing the difference, and then it's returning the absolute value of that. Now here this guy's complicating a bit, so he's importing multiply from operators, and then from function tools he's importing reduce, and then making use of those. This is kind of the same way, but it's written a bit more clearly, easy to understand. This guy is not putting the parentheses, because if you guys know the orders of the operators in Python, multiplication takes precedence over difference, right? So this will occur first, and then this will occur, and then the results of those two will be the final result. Okay, this is interesting. I never knew about this solution. Cool. Lambda. This can be done in lambda because it's fairly easy. We don't need a helper function. I'm looking to see if, yeah. So here this guy wrote a helper function as well. But most of the guys used a lot of imports. This is another simple way. Well, anyway, that was my solution and I'm sticking to it. Let's move to the next one. I think we'll do 2 or 3 more exercises and we'll be done for the day. Our arrow function odd. Time to test your basic knowledge in functions. Return the odd from a list. Hey, we've done that. Simple. Right. Let's do it fairly quickly. And we'll do the lambda way as well for this one. So if v modulo 2 is different than 0, attempt, hey, it work? It works. And here below, oops, we actually need to close that one. And below, let's do odds equals lambda values v for v in values. It's kind of the same thing as the expression in the return. If v modulo 2 is different than 0, comment this out. Attempt, it's passing with flying colors. So yeah, let's do this. Actually, we submit it like that. Yep, and as you can see, most of the guys went with the same solution. This guy went with a different solution. Basically, he checked if modulo 2 is equal 1. Basically, yeah, every odd number divided by 2 will have a remainder of 1. This is doing this guy is doing byte shifts. It's a bit more advanced of a topic, but yeah. Okay, some guys are doing really complicated stuff and fairly hard to read stuff for no apparent reason. This guy is doing a lambda in a return. Why? Why? Cool, so this was simple. Let's move to the next one. Ensure question. Cool. Given a string, write a function that returns the string with a question mark. Appends. I'm assuming he meant append it to the end, unless the original string ends with a question mark, in which case return the original string. Oh, this is going to be also very simple. Here we will say return s plus, like that, if failed because okay, let's enclose this into parenthesis. Okay, let's do it the long way. I'm not sure why this is not working. Let's say if right. Actually, I think we can do or here. Yeah, we don't need to have both, because if length of string is less than 1, meaning length is 0, we'll just return nothing plus question mark. But if it's not, because remember, or one of those needs to be true. If this is true, it doesn't check for the other one, right? So this is true, it goes straight to this. This is false, it checks this one. If this one is true, the whole thing evaluates to true and then returns this one. All right, so this is the long way. Now let's write it all in one. So return s plus question mark if s minus 1 is different than exclamation part, otherwise S. Basically that's it. Okay. So let's do it differently. If, I mean, let's do it as above. If lambda as it's higher than 1 and s of -1 equals the question mark, else return that. Let's see how this one goes. Correct. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. And I think this can be optimized further, but yeah, two solutions are good. Okay, and let's see if we can manage to solve one more. Okay, this is clever. I'm gonna vote for it. So basically what this guy does, it's right stripping, so going from the right of the string to the left, it's the last element on the right. If it has a question mark, it's going to remove it and then add it. So if it doesn't have a question mark, it does not do anything, it's just adding the question mark. This is fairly clever. All right, and this is the very long way. Okay. Not sure why this guy said I don't know, because it's correct. Again, you can use ends with if your string does not end with. My god, these guys are really liking to make everything complicated. Yeah, so a lot of solution. Okay, let's see if we can solve another one fairly quickly. Merging sorted integers arrays. The UFC one, I really need to check out what they want. So yeah, we'll leave that to another day when I'm not so tired. Alright, so let's see. Write a function that merges two sorted arrays into a single one. The arrays only contains integers. Also, the final outcome must be sorted and not have any duplicates. Okay. Basically, first we need to merge the two arrays. So let's see. We can do this. For I in first, if I not in second, second dot append I. Return sorted. Second. Let's see if it goes through. Attempt. And it fails here with negative numbers. Why is that? Why sorted fail like? I'm sorry. Okay. Dear list. Okay, hope. List dot sort. Source the list ascending order and return none. Why is not this working, man? Okay. Help sorted. Okay, so this is a built-in function. This should work. Return a new list containing all items from the table in ascending order. Custom key function can be supplied to customize the sort order, like the reversed flag. Okay, so let's try this one. Print sorted. Okay, what I want to do is I want to add in negative numbers. So let's say lista is range from -100 -10, because I don't want to do to 10. Okay. Yeah, and I want a list. Cool. But this is already sorted. Let's do -1. Yeah, to range, you cannot give a negative step. Okay. Minus, actually do 1, 3, 4, minus 10, 20, minus 11, so on and so forth. I think we are good. Sorted. Did. All right, so sorted. Like that should work. However, I'm not sure if you guys understand what I did here, but okay, so we are past 1 hour, so let me explain quickly. Basically, what I'm doing here, I'm taking all the elements that are from the first, that are not in second, and add them to the second. This is done here. And then what I do, I'm sorting, but first I'm getting the second, which now should have all the elements in first that were not in there. So basically do the union of these two, transforming that to a set, because a set will only hold unique values. So every values that's repeating, the duplicates will be removed automatically. Then I'm transforming that set into a list, because we need to sort it, and sets are not really sortable. Also, the result should be a list, if I understand correctly. Yeah, array. Well, array, it's list. And then we get the result. Now, this is somewhat the long way. Actually, there are multiple ways to make it longer, like taking each array, sorting it, adding numbers, making all kinds of mathematical operation here that will take longer. But I think this is the shortest way. Actually, the shortest way would be like this. Or list union Okay, we can do plus. We can do list comprehensions with y for x and y. Extend. Okay, then you can do concate. You can use iter tool and then use chain. All right, so our first fastest solution is this. This is the simplest and fastest solution, and I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, so so it wasn't relevant if it was a set or a list. Good to know. This is the merging being done. Wow, this guy found a really long way to do it. I'm not sure why 3 guys I've voted for best practice. This is definitely not best practice, to be honest. It's way too convoluted, it's too complicated. I mean, look at this one. What could be simpler than this? Let's see if we find an answer here. Nope. That's the simplest way. Alright, so this was what I was looking for, the union. Still, it's all good. Yeah, I guess this is the simplest way. Yeah, so this is the lambda way. We could have done that as well. Okay. So this is the most voted. Cool. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you like this episode, and I really hope you can I can see you guys live on the chat sometime. Like I said, thank you for tuning in. Hope you had a great time. Hope you learned something, and keep on coding. Cheerios, guys. Bye.